How do you think Mariah Carey would feel about that review? She's like the world's biggest ball of yarn.
She's really known to be a very forgiving and humble and modest person, so I think she would be okay.
Welcome to Draft, the podcast where we, draft things. I'm your host, Daniel Prentice, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Preston Thompson. Preston, how are you doing and what are you drinking this week?
I am doing okay, Dan. Thanks for having me on for another episode. I don't think you could get somebody else to edit, I guess, if you switched out hosts. But I am doing okay. Not. I am drinking a beer from New Realm Brewing in Atlanta. It's called Hazy Like a Fox. It's an IPA. I'm a very happy boy on this Sunday evening, drinking a beer, trying not to think about what comes tomorrow.
What comes tomorrow? You sound a little somber right now, if I'm being honest.
But it's Monday, man. I'm in the 60 to 80 hour work week mode right now.
Oof.
So I know I'm happy to be doing this and not, having thought about work too much in the recent time of today.
Yeah, hopefully we'll have some fun to get you refreshed for that work week coming up on Monday. And this week we're joined by a great guest to do just that. We are joined by a pending free agent of the Florida State Athletics beat and good friend, Tim Linafelt. Tim, how are you doing and what are you drinking this week?
Oh, man, I'm doing so well. I appreciate that introduction. I've never been introduced as a pending free agent. I guess I've never been a pending free agent before. So
world at your fingertips right now.
For everything. It feels just like that, too, let me tell you. But no, I'm doing really well. I'm excited to be here. I am drinking a Founders All Day IPA, courtesy of our friend Tom Lang, who has. So my wife and I, we take this pandemic thing more seriously than most people, I think, which we don't really go anywhere. And Tom has been gracious enough on a few occasions to field my orders for alcohol and bring them to me. And
what a friend.
I know it's pretty awesome.
What a guy!
It really is something else. No, it is. And on a few occasions, I've said just surprise me, and he has supplied us with the all day IPA, and it's been delicious.
Former guest of the show.
Our first ever guest.
I figured he was. So yeah, and so named, I guess, because you can drink it all day, and for me, it's going to be all night IPA. But I think the overall sentiment is the same.
For sure. And I myself, I am drinking another Kona Brewing Company product. Last week it was the Big Wave. This week it's the Longboard Island Lager. So still feeling those summer vibes right now. I'm with Tim. I am basically have been on lockdown with like the one exception being a few rounds of disc golf here and there. So it's nice to have a little bit of summer beachy feel in my own home with the Kona brews.
I do love the Konas, man.
Yeah, they're good.
I'm gonna sound super I guess privileged, for lack of a better word, but a couple of years ago, one of my good friends lived. He no longer lives there, but he lived in Hawaii on Oahu, and we were fortunate to go to the Kona brew house or what have you on the whatever awesome bay in the middle of Honolulu, and they have their whole deal, and they have some brews that you can only get on the island and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty much one of my favorite days I ever had was being at Kona. So yeah. Pretty great stuff.
That sounds pretty sweet.
It wasn't so bad.
Yeah,
something to look forward to.
Drafting best days.
Yeah, wow, that's a first round pick for sure.
Well, what's funny, and I'll give you a professional tease. That was at once one of the best and worst days of my life. That'll be for our next show. How about that?
Wow. Okay. Yeah, for the best and worst days drafts.
See.
But Preston, why don't you tell us what we're drafting this week, huh?
So, tonight we are drafting 6 90s bands or musicians to make our perfect music festival. We will only be using artists that kind of had their peak discography in the 90s. We're letting it bleed very slightly into 88, 89. So some of these will be up for debate, but it seems pretty straightforward. Daniel, I know you picked Tim specifically for this episode, and why don't you tell us why?
I did. Well, Tim has become a better friend I've known him from time covering FSU sports before, but has become a better friend through coronavirus, ironically, because every week we get together with Tom Lang and listen to music. We all kind of like, a handful of us pick a few songs, come together, and share why these songs mean something to us or why we've picked them this week or whatever. And it's a good time every time. And I've discovered that Tim is like a big time music buff, has been to countless concerts and everything. And his dad actually was a studio drummer. And the biggest name that I've heard is Ricky Nelson, and that might go over a lot of heads of people for our usual target audience age, but pretty big deal musically back in the day. And Tim himself was a member of the Shower Beers, the iconic Tallahassee ska band back in the day as well. So yeah, Tim, we're super ecstatic. For a ska band, especially, cool. It's elite tier ska band name for sure.
Yeah, it's okay. So where to start? Yeah, I mean, music. If there's one thing I can really thank my parents for, it's for instilling a love of music in me, but particularly old rock and roll, like from the '60s, the Beach Boys, the Beatles, of course, Elvis, that sort of thing. We listened to a lot of the oldies type of station and some old doo-wop and that sort of thing. And so just kind of stuck with it and was really into it, except me and my dad. It was kind of a weird deal with my dad because he was a session drummer and he was on some recordings with some people. And it sounds like a bigger deal now than I think it was back then, if that makes any sense. It was sort of like, hey, you're here. Here's some, here's some drumsticks. But yeah, it's pretty cool. And my dad was kind of one of those who was. You ever see the movie Big Fish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You remember that? So he was very much like that kind of guy, like tall tales,
like the dad, yeah.
Thing. Right, exactly. But then there is photographic evidence, there is recorded evidence. There's pictures of him, with the bands and with the drumsticks, and I have some old 45s and things with him on it. So it's pretty cool. And then when I got into high school, I got into I guess made friends with people who were really into ska and punk rock and that sort of thing, and fell into that, and I still love it. It's still really cool stuff, and it was fun to play, like you mentioned, in the Shower Beers, which was a name that we labored long and hard over. We probably spent the first 3 or 4 months of the band not having a name.
It's the most important part of forming a band, coming up with a name.
Absolutely.
Well, it's up there. And so I remember, we had, this is very 2012 of us or whatever, somebody had made like a Google Doc of all of our potential band names. And I remember one of them I can't repeat, unfortunately. But I
this is an explicit podcast. Let it rip.
It's true.
Man, it ain't that explicit, buddy. And so
oh my God, now my mind is running rampant. What could it possibly be?
I remember thinking, I was like, we are not calling the band that. We're not doing that. And so
he'll tell us off air, folks.
So anyway, we all settled on the Shower Beers, and even that felt it still does feel kind of silly. But
appropriately
people
silly
liked
for a
it.
ska band.
Yeah,
well,
so does calling an entire genre ska.
Well, right, sure, but it's like, my wife and I, we were still dating at the time, and it's like, you're out to dinner with her parents who aren't so sure about you, and they're like, so hey, what are you up to, Tim? And I'm like, well, I'm in a band now. I just started a band. Oh, what's it called? It's the Shower Beers, the what? That sort of thing. So that makes it a little challenging. So there were lots of things like that, or you've had like job interviews. So tell me something about yourself. I'm in a band, and well, tell me about your band. Oh shit. Well, it's you know what I mean. You don't actually really want to go there.
Right.
But yeah. So anyway.
I'm very excited to see how it bleeds into this draft. What those influences. What path they send you down.
I suspect that it will. Hopefully, none of you guys are planning on taking the Mighty Mighty Bosstones in the first round.
Ooh, no spoilers, but they may or may not be sure. on my list of my expansive list of potential bands. But Preston,
that's fair.
But for both of you, really, this is the draft order for this week. Preston is leading us off. Myself second, and then Tim will have the wraparound, the 3rd and 4th picks. Of course, as always, we have the snake style draft 6 rounds. So, Preston, why don't you take the first 90s band to start off as, I guess, kind of the headliner is what I'm thinking of, because like most music festivals have dozens and dozens of acts. These are going to be the ones that are drawing people in.
And the large font. And the large font on the poster. Yep. There's going to be like 2 in the large font, and then everybody else gets into the smaller font. Yeah, first of all, I don't think I've had a first pick. I may be wrong, but it makes me a little bit nervous. I'm also particularly nervous about this draft because I came to most of these bands when I was over the age of 18. I was raised on one solitary country music radio station, and I wasn't allowed to change the station until I drove my own car. So I actually didn't listen to probably most of what we're going to talk about until I was maybe in college. So it's weird kind of looking back and trying to make guesses on what would be a good draw here. But if I'm going to pick a 90s band, and I'm playing my audience here, and Daniel, we've got a small audience. Most of them are going to be my friends. And I know my friends. So I'm picking somebody that I know is going to be a good draw. So for the first overall pick, I'm picking Blink-182, which to me is a quintessential 90s sound that is the perfect big text headliner that you want.
Sure. I mean, they're definitely very 90s. I don't think I would have taken them in the first round myself. I feel like they're pretty niche. But hey, that's who clearly Preston is playing to here.
You think Blink-182 is
for their personal
niche?
Friends.
No.
I think a little bit.
I don't know that I would have guessed that they would go at all.
Okay.
Wow. Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to be second guessing myself for the rest of the night.
That's right where we want him to be, Tim.
I think it's a good pick. I don't know. That's so interesting, man. I got to really think about this.
Hey, Tim, what year were you born?
I was born in 1986.
So I'm curious how our different ages here are going to affect how we view these things.
Yeah, I probably am too.
Well, I will say
Blink-182's really shining moment was late 90s, early 2000s. So
True.
maybe a lot of people don't even think of them as 90s. They think of them as more like alt-rock early 2000s. So I don't know.
I did have them on my list as potentials, but I will say, as someone who's the same age as Preston, I'm still surprised that they went number 1 overall. Mostly because I feel like that there is an obvious number 1 pick here. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but we actually discussed this band because they were one of the bands that was kind of a weird gray area. But we all decided clearly a 90s band, despite their first album coming out in 1989. I'm taking Nirvana, number 2 overall. Kurt Cobain, back from the dead. I mean, who is not going to want to come see Nirvana? Like, their first show, since the band ended in the mid-90s? I mean, there's not a person in the world who's not going to want to come to my music festival now just for my main opening act.
I looked at Nirvana, but I knew that there was a certain set of 30 people who I know for sure listen to the podcast who I can't win without getting Blink-182. So I'm playing the electoral college numbers here.
That's fair.
That's fair enough. He knows his electorate.
The Blink-182 wall is what they call it. The Blink wall. So,
Tim, do you have thoughts on Nirvana?
They like you're right. They are the quintessential. I myself am not what I would call a huge Nirvana fan. However, if I were picking and they were on the board, I would take them in this draft.
Yeah, I feel like you have to.
Yeah,
that's just kind of it. I mean, I think when if you start talking about the signature of the 90s, I don't know that you talk more than 30 seconds without them coming up. Particularly if you put yourself into rock and stay away from hip hop or R&B or country or any other kind of genre. Nirvana. They were kind of it, and really, when they were like the dividing line, right, between the hair metal and the 80s and the flamboyant rock, and then the grunge, the dirtier bits. They're the line in the sand, I think. So yeah, man. When you talk about not just the songs, they have some great songs too, but their overall influence, I think they're an obvious choice.
And also the ability to bring people back from the dead for a music festival. It's gonna be a nice draw. Blink-182 did a reunion tour a couple years ago, so it's really not that impressive for them to come back for a music festival.
Think about how psyched people got for the Tupac hologram,
Yeah.
It's true.
Now, this is the real deal. But Tim, all right, so you have back-to-back picks now here for the final pick of the first and first pick of the second round.
That's a lot of pressure. Okay, so for the final pick of the first round, I am not going to go too far down the road. I will pick Pearl Jam.
Sensible.
Yes.
Yeah.
A band that is still active today, and as far as I'm concerned, is putting out good music. But when you look at that run in the '90s, particularly those first two albums, 10, which is an unbelievable greatest hits album of 1990s rock between Even Flow, Alive, Jeremy, some of those other ones, and then Versus after that, some of those hits and sort of defining sounds. To me, they're right up there. As a band that not only helped define the 1990s, but then also has had really big staying power. And unlike a lot of the bands from this era and a lot of their peers and contemporaries, kind of evolved with fame and fortune and seem to be reasonably well-adjusted guys who have kind of settled into middle age or older middle age and are still doing their thing. And I think
that's what we're looking for to headline our music festival, baby.
I expected Pearl Jam. I expected Nirvana to go first and Pearl Jam to likely go second. And I was kind of scrambling to see who I would pick third.
Well, now we get to find out. Still.
Now we get to find out. And now, sure, if you're ready. So with the fourth overall pick, round two, number one, I will take a band that was I think it's still kind of a rival of Pearl Jam, if you will, and that is the Smashing Pumpkins.
Ooh,
interesting.
I do very much like Smashing Pumpkins.
So I do too, but they seem to me like not on the same level of success as the other two. And again, for context, I'm coming to all these groups like in my college years. So am I wrong about that? It seems like they're kind of a good solid step below those top two.
I would have thought so in terms of cultural impact, but maybe we're just too young, Preston.
That could be it.
I don't know. I mean, it's kind of whatever you think. But I don't know. I think they're really great. I think that their best is as good as anybody's. But I think that maybe they weren't quite as consistent and don't have the same staying power, So I think like a song like 1979, I would hold up as good as any song of the 1990s. Tonight. The whole, I love Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness is really good stuff.
Yeah.
But I don't know that they have the same, in my opinion, full overall body of work as some of their peers. And you're right, I don't think they reach the same level of overall commercial success,
which would be hard to do, to be fair.
Yeah.
Of course, absolutely. But again, I think when they're at their best, I think they're as good as anybody.
Fair enough. I mean, I like them. I had them as a team, as a band that I had my eye on for a later round. But I actually am gonna get my top two picks actually, which I'm very excited by, and I'm kind of gonna break the trend of the four first picks falling under the genre of what I would label as white people music, if that's fair to say.
Dang it, I was going to be the one that took us away from white people music. I was hoping you'd continue the white people music.
No, you actually might be upset about this considering where you're from, Preston. But this band, I mean, tremendous success in hip-hop and pop music. So super popular. I'm taking Outkast. Big reunion here. People haven't seen Andre 3000 with Big Boy and in forever. It's been too long. Can you imagine the energy of them, doing their just litany of massive hits back together again on stage? People are going to lose their minds.
I'm deeply hurt by that pick. I don't think I've had a pick on this show where I was so excited to hype a local like set of legends here. But yeah, being from Atlanta, I was gonna take him next, so I guess.
Yeah, honestly, you should have taken him first. I think that would have gotten a lot less blinked eyes than taking Blink-182. Pun not intended.
Nice, yeah, okay.
It's tough though, and I have no dispute calling Outkast a product of the '90s, particularly by the parameters that we set. But I also think of when Outkast became like super like pop culture icons was early 2000s. Was when
Sure.
they really
That's
when
Speaker
when your
Box came out.
mom. Right. Like that's when your mom knew who Outkast was.
Yeah,
So,
and I can't
anyway.
remember Preston said this, but you do get the entire musical catalog.
Yes,
Of
not
the
just their
performers. So if
90s
they,
albums.
Yeah,
yes.
so if they release music, after. So I still get Hey Ya and all that. But yeah, thrilled to get Outkast the second round. Like I said, I had them 1 and 2 as my top 2 overall picks. So excited to get them both here.
Yeah. Well, that brings it to me. I'm a little thrown, but I think, if we're gonna make the kind of NFL draft comparison, if we're both going for wide receivers, and I had a wide receiver very high on my board, somebody takes him, just gonna look at wide receiver number 2. I'm just gonna look
That's
at
a classic
kind of
mistake.
the same thing, but different.
Run on wide receivers.
Yeah,
It's a deep class this year. And to be fair, the metaphor stands because, hip hop R&B in the 90s, that's a deep class. There are
Very
a
deep
lot,
class.
a lot on here that you could go to. But I'm just gonna go with the Wu-Tang Clan here. I think I'm also gonna try and switch up my directions a little bit and widen my audience for the music festival.
yeah.
Kind of a lot of the same things we said about Outkast. I think I'd rather have Outkast, but I think Wu-Tang Clan is no joke. And also the very cult-like following too, that would certainly be a music festival type crowd.
Yeah, I mean, they also just bring so many possible songs because they all have done so much solo. I want to ask you guys, have you seen their Tiny Desk concert?
No,
I have not.
Boy, I'm intrigued.
Oh man, it's so good. It's I think kind of a recent one, and they actually have Old Dirty Bastard's son do the Old Dirty Bastard parts. Young Dirty Bastard he goes by, which is incredible.
That's
But yeah, absolutely got to check it out. It's really awesome. So love the Wu-Tang.
Yeah.
A pretty good second receiver option, I have to say.
Right? Yeah. I mean, yeah. Again, would rather have Outkast, but no joke right here. Do you think there's any fan overlap between Blink-182 and Wu-Tang Clan?
Yeah.
I would
definitely
maybe,
do.
Maybe a little bit. Okay. So, another pick here to me. We're wrapping around. Boy, I really don't want to get laughed out of the room for this one, but I'm really trying to.
Well, then don't make a stupid pick.
Man, I know. I really want to laugh him out of the room. Come on, Preston.
I'm trying to widen
Believe
the
in yourself.
audience here.
Believe in yourself.
Fine,
Come on,
fine,
you can do it.
Fine. Okay, I'm trying to widen the audience here, guys.
So yeah,
But
I'm
there's
Preston's life coach, actually, in addition to his podcast co-host.
Are we getting Sinead O'Connor or what?
I think it's gonna be country. It's got to be country. Is where he's going.
It is. It is a little bit in that direction, yes. And I'm going for what I would consider to be probably the most well-known, if you go song by song, country artist to my group of friends who never listened to country growing up. They still know these songs, and that is Shania Twain.
Ooh.
I'm taking Shania Twain. The top 3 on my festival lineup right now are killer, and they are all from different genres. I actually feel pretty good about that now that I said it out loud. So I don't think any of the voters are going to respect that, but I feel good about it.
The audience for this festival is going to really be something.
Yeah, it's going to bring the whole world together.
Yeah, well, the thing is,
you're going to get nothing but suburban teenagers.
Shania is great. I think you probably could have gotten Shania in the 6th round, perhaps. But
yeah, I should have thought about U2. I should have thought about U2 and what I know
definitely
so far.
not a '90s band.
No. Should have thought about U2, Daniel. The two of you.
Oh,
okay.
I should have thought about the two of you.
Tim, I'm not the only one who thought he was talking about the band U2.
I definitely did.
Okay.
Okay, I should have thought about the two of you, knowing what you have picked so far and how you have spoken highly of those groups, and probably known that neither of you were going to have Shania Twain very high. But I still like it. I'm still feeling good about it.
Hey man, that's the deal.
And as long as I can look at myself in the mirror and be happy with the work I've done, that's all that matters. No, I'm gonna ignore the fact that in one of our most recent episodes, I got 7% in one of the votes, which is just oh my god.
You know,
But no.
And to be fair, I'm not sure that you deserved that 7 in that particular.
No, I would have thought it'd land around 2 or 3. It's for that Game of Thrones episode, for anybody curious.
Yes. I was aware. But yeah, Shania, not a bad pick. She's got some like certified jams that that if they come on, every single person is singing to. Like I said, I would have picked her a little bit later, but I can't fault you for taking Shania.
Well, in a lot of festival lineups, sometimes depending on your timetable, the concert that a group gives is going to be like abridged. Like I saw Ludacris at Sweetwater 420 Fest, and his entire set was like 18 minutes, and he was only on stage for like 6 of it. For part of it, he left, and his stagehands pushed out a stripper pole, and that just kind of happened for a little while during Ludacris's set. So I think our timing can vary here. Shania can play the hits and then make way, you know?
Yeah, sure, totally. Okay, well, I'm up again. I have to say I'm really enjoying having the middle pick. You know, it is kind of a lot of pressure to have like be at the either end, even though there's only 3 of us picking, because it is kind of a long wait, and going back to back is kind of tough. This in that Game of Thrones episode that Preston referenced, I also went a little off book with my pick 10. I think I'm gonna do the same now, but maybe I don't know. It was hard to value bands in this for me, but I'm gonna continue my expansion into different genres to try to bring in as many different people as I think Preston is aiming for. I'm gonna go with No Doubt here. I think ska was such a big genre in the 90s. I think one of the defining genres of the 90s, and No Doubt had more crossover pop appeal than any of the ska bands. And if I want to get greedy, which why wouldn't I? I have Gwen Stefani, and she can now maybe perform her expansive solo career up there as well, and really bring the house down. So yeah, I'm going with No Doubt.
Do you get all of Gwen Stefani's like solo stuff?
Hey, why not?
I mean, I guess you could.
It's like like Beyonce brought back the Destiny's Child crew for her Super Bowl show. I'm just going to reverse engineer that instead.
Wait, did Destiny's Child do anything in the 90s? Because
they did. Their debut album was in '99, I believe. Yeah.
All right. Well, getting Beyonce now seems like a pretty solid choice.
See, I feel like we're getting away from the spirit of the thing here.
Yeah.
No, we are. Yeah. I was kidding about the Gwen Stefani solo stuff.
Yeah.
Still thrilled to get No Doubt. I love No Doubt.
No Doubt was definitely going to be a late round sleeper for me. They are. The first CD I ever bought with my own money was No Doubt, Tragic Kingdom. So wow. I definitely have a.
So Tim's coming to my festival for sure.
Yeah,
mine was Britney Spears' "Hit Me, Baby, One More Time." That was no joke. The first CD I bought with my own hard-earned dollars.
And you haven't taken Britney
Nirvana,
yet.
Outkast, and No Doubt's pretty jazzy. I like that.
Britney's on the board. I just feel like you two aren't touching that with a 10-foot pole. So
I wouldn't be so sure of that, my friend. Maybe Tim might do it right now. He's got 2 picks.
So before we go on, I feel like we should address the fact that I feel like if we don't pick the Red Hot Chili Peppers, somebody out there is going to be like, how could you not pick the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Okay, we'll address the elephant in the room.
But we have decided that the Red Hot Chili Peppers are off the board. Correct?
Yeah,
we're not taking them because
too much music made in the 80s. Like music that when you think of Chili Peppers, you think of these songs.
I think at most favorable to the 90s, it's like 50-50, and that's still not what we're trying to do here. So, they would have been probably my first overall pick if they were.
I mean, and they were definitely huge in the 1990s.
Oh, for sure, undeniably.
But they literally had like 4 full-length albums.
Yeah, they span too many eras, unfortunately.
Started in like 1983. So just so you know, we're not dumb. It's not that we didn't think of them.
Well, we might be dumb.
We decided that they were. Well, that's fair.
We can be dumb and also explain this.
But you can't use that as an example of it.
But we did think of them. Okay, so all right. Up next for me is a band that I sort of strategically thought probably would still be here, and they are, and I don't even know if you guys will ever even would, but for me, it's a no-brainer to absolutely have at any music festival I would ever have, and that is Radiohead.
So I was hoping that Radiohead would be my last gasp at getting that genre covered, which right now I don't have. So I really don't want to reach for like Creed. I'd really rather not. But it's not looking great right now.
Are you putting Creed and Radiohead in the same genre?
I'm using a pretty wide net here.
That's the I think that's the nicest thing anyone has said about Creed in over 20 years.
That's probably true.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. But yeah, I mean, Radiohead, I think are brilliant. They're on my short list of my favorite bands of ever. And although we have established that I get access to Radiohead's full catalog, and I will gladly take it, I think just exclusively their '90s catalog, particularly with the Bends and OK Computer, is just spectacular. And so yeah, I would be very, very fired up to see them. I saw them a while ago now, in 2008. I saw them in Atlanta, and it was fantastic. So really good stuff there, and happy to have Radiohead on my lineup day 90s.
Yeah, pretty strong.
Okay. Yeah, so on to my next pick. Is another sentimental favorite for me, a band that was really huge in the 90s and continues to be around today. And I'll lead this in a little bit and say that, so as I mentioned earlier, when I was with my parents, I listened to a lot of old music. We also, country music obviously was really popular back then, and we listened to a lot of that, and Garth Brooks was huge, and if he's still around in a few rounds, maybe I'll take him. But the first CD I had ever really heard that was modern me in the 1990s rock, and had all the energy and the loudness and the kind of attitude that you associate with it, was Green Day's Dookie album, and it still.
Well, your parents listen to Green Day.
No, my parents never did. My parents never did. This is
I was gonna say.
Sorry,
those are some cool parents.
Yeah.
No, they weren't that cool. And so anyway, I went and spent the night. I had a friend who his parents were divorced, and so he would spend certain times with his dad and certain times with his mom, and so we'd go like for the weekends when he'd be with his dad, and he had a trampoline, and so we were like I'm like 9 years old at this point, right? So we would jump on the trampoline, and he has a little boom box, and we put on Dookie, and it was just awesome. So anyway, and then turns out that album and that band really has had some staying power, and as far as I'm concerned, has written some really, really great songs in the pop punk genre. And so for my next pick, the first pick of the fourth round, I believe, is Green Day.
Yeah, I mean, great pick. Really, not a whole lot I can say at Green Day. So many classics, brings great energy.
My only complaint is that I hold them very close to the 2000s decade, because I think my feeling is that they hit their absolute peak at American Idiot, which is
I think a lot of people would disagree with that.
Really? Oh
yeah.
No! Oh no!
So.
Okay, there's your bonus. There's your bonus Twitter poll. Like that. No, okay. Because of American Idiot,
this is where the generation gap is coming in.
Tied to that time period. What generation? You're younger than me.
I don't think I am. We just got when were you born?
I was born June 17th, 1993.
Yeah, so I'm March 31st, 93. So I am older.
I'm too.
But I'm
too old to be
those
here.
2 months really make Green Day age like a
No,
fine wine.
I meant between you and I and Tim, and I am just aware of like the 90s appreciation.
I'm too old to be here.
No, you're fine, Tim. You're not our oldest guest.
If you ask most people what Green Day's best album was, they would say American Idiot. And I think there are several statistical metrics that would support that fact
I think
like
if you ask most people our age.
Yeah, I think if you ask most people your age, they might say American Idiot. I think if you ask most people my age, they would undoubtedly say Dookie.
I think this is an interesting question. I'm excited to see.
We'll solve it on the bonus poll that gets a whole 15 to 20 votes a week.
For the record, I'm not an American Idiot hater.
Sure.
I didn't love it when it came out, but as it's aged, I've come to appreciate it a little bit more. So,
all right, fair enough. But Tim gets Green Day, which regardless of where you fall on the American Idiot divide, great.
Either way, still a solid pick.
Very solid pick.
Yeah, I feel great about my lineup right now. Just so you guys know.
Yeah, I mean, likewise. I would attend either your or my music festival, Tim.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
And
I'm still. You guys are the worst.
I'm still waiting to see how Preston wraps up his. But
I'm not going in your direction.
Okay.
I'm not going in your direction.
Do you guys think Blink-182 and Shania Twain have ever played a show together before?
I would love to hear
God, I hope
Shania
so.
Twain come on and do "What's My Age Again" in front of Blink. That'd be fantastic.
Oh, it'd be incredible.
Are you kidding me? When you
It would
host
work.
that music festival, you get the great like crossover potential of them coming on doing each other's stuff. So, oh my god, yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I am upset that Tim took Radiohead. They're actually not one of my favorite bands. I feel like they're kind of like, you have to be in the right mood, I think, to listen to Radiohead. At least for me.
Is it bad? Is it a bad mood?
It's kind of like a sad, whiny mood.
Kind of
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah.
Brooding, yes.
Oh no.
Oh, jeez.
Introspective.
Yeah. There you go. But so that's not necessarily the energy I was like looking for as like one of my primary artists for a music festival. But I did want a band kind of in that nature. But I think now I'll have to wait for them. I'm gonna go for an absolute pop icon here, who has made iconic music for decades. Preston, I hope I'm not gonna break your heart. You look worried. But I'm gonna take Mariah Carey, who is one of the most talented singers undeniably of all time. She has some absolute jams. I know I said this for, a couple of my picks already. Bops. Certified bops. That it's just everyone is going to be coming to see Mariah. And like if I get some sort of magic where I get, like still in her prime Mariah Carey, which is what I'm imagining here. I mean it's another just absolute, bomb here. Yeah.
Here's
Absolute bomb.
what I want to say. I want to say to your credit, you're doing this for the music festival, and it shows because Mariah Carey is one of those people that like, even if you are like the biggest, you have Nirvana. If you are the biggest Nirvana fan in the world, you're a Nirvana groupie, you're still probably going to go to the next stage to see Mariah Carey because it's Mariah Carey. Like,
Come on.
I mean, like you got your ticket, you're in the door. Yeah, I mean, it just seems like it's almost like, going to see like, the world's largest ball of yarn when you're driving through a town. Like, I feel like since I'm here, I've just got to go see her because it's just impressive. So,
how do you think Mariah Carey would feel about that review? She's like the world's biggest ball of yarn.
She's really known to be a very forgiving and humble and modest person, so I think she would be okay.
I mean, to be fair, if I could sing the way she could, I would be neither humble nor modest I wouldn't.
Absolutely,
for sure.
I would never stop singing.
For sure.
I mean, anything other than what I wanted to be. So yeah,
For sure.
She's probably the most of our picks so far. She's probably the most independently talented of the bunch.
Yeah, she's unbelievable. I mean, I definitely would go see her personally.
Have you heard Shania Twain though?
Yeah, man.
Well, Preston, you have back-to-back picks. Your fourth and fifth picks here.
Yeah. So first one, I'm pretty clear cut on. I don't have a lot of shakiness about. My strategy has evolved since the beginning of the draft, where I think Daniel and Tim are stepping on each other's toes a little bit with some of the groups they're picking. I'm going to go the complete opposite direction and try and win a completely different crowd. So I'm taking the Backstreet Boys.
Okay.
Backstreet's back.
Gosh.
All right.
All right.
Again, a very quintessential 90s band for people my age. Don't know about the older folks on the Zoom call, but for people my age,
Hey, no age shaming. No age shaming.
I know. I'm sorry. That was
Do not ask me to show my Backstreet Boys credentials. My age group was the target audience for the Backstreet Boys. I was the group that was 13, 14 years old when they were popular. You're coming in on the back end, sir.
Yeah, that's true.
I
was in seventh grade when the really big NSYNC album came out. So, whatever.
There you go. Okay, so any thoughts on this before I move on to my next one?
My only problem is that you could play a Backstreet Boys song or an NSYNC song, and I think I'd be able to tell you which one is which of the two whose song it was about 50% of the time. Was never a big fan really of either. They kind of bleed together to me. But I understand the appeal. I mean, they were massive, so.
So at the time, like when I was listening to them, at the time, they felt like they were battling it out for the spotlight. Mm-hmm. But Backstreet Boys, with time, has clearly won the war. Like, it is not close. Like, if you're asking people to name songs from those two groups, I think out of the top 5, Backstreet Boys would have 4.
Dirty Pop.
And NSYNC would have Bye Bye Bye.
I don't know. I don't know that I agree.
I don't think Dirty Pop would come up, to be honest.
Dirty
But
Pop.
for some reason, I'm coming out of left field with these opinions with our group tonight. But that's just me.
I think that NSYNC is far and away better.
The NSYNC clearly more
And
talented.
also-
They had Justin Timberlake.
Yeah.
But that's not the question.
And you got the Timberlake factor as well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. The Timberlake factor, though, at that time wasn't the Timberlake factor. So I don't know. We're dealing with some weird, like, alternate dimension reality happening at our music festival.
That's true. But
I still like the pick.
But you're trying to draw people. They know they're going to get Timberlake.
So, Daniel, is your point that I should have picked NSYNC over Backstreet Boys, or is your point that picking
I don't really have a point.
is kind
They're
of
just
pointless?
so samey to me. I think it just was interesting that basically 2 bands that at the time were, in my mind, like totally unidentifiable from each other. Just what a weird time in music that was, the late 90s.
Yeah. Did you make fun of your friends that liked NSYNC and Backstreet Boys? Were you one of those?
No, I mean, I was in like kindergarten, I feel like, so I hadn't developed my music snobbiness yet.
Can we stop that?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay. All right. So I've got another.
Growing up, all my friends were older than me. I was always the youngest person in the group, and now it's the
Yeah, now you're getting beat from the other direction.
to a very large degree. Anyway, all right, carry on.
So I don't know what to do with this pick, and I may cut this question when we edit. But how many more picks do I have left, Daniel?
You have
Never
2
picked up
picks.
this position. I have 2
You
left,
have 5 and 6,
but I won't get one for a little bit now.
and then you'll have the last pick.
Okay. Got it. So I'm thinking of going a direction Daniel went, bringing somebody back from the dead here. And I think I'm going to take Tupac.
Oh,
I think I'm going to take Tupac.
You have to, I think, at this stage.
Well, that's a good one.
If I'm going to be honest, I really don't know a whole lot of Tupac's music. But
You know more than you think you do, I think.
I think that's probably right. I think that's
And
probably
the people coming to
true.
your festival know it.
Oh, for
And
sure.
that's true. That part is true. So, again, I'm trying to not just widen the horizon of my festival, but also, like, widen mine. Like, try and think of the stuff that I hadn't considered. And I think Tupac's going to be a good get. Also, like, very much in the 90s. Unlike Backstreet Boys, which kind of bled pretty deeply into the 2000s, Tupac is very much 90s.
Also, does Tupac get to bring some guests on stage and do California Love?
I think so. I'm going to say yes. I will say the people he brings on stage obviously can only do that song.
Right.
But, yes, I would say so.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I had him lined up to take next. I waited because I already had, Outkast for some hip-hop influence. But
Yeah, and I have Wu-Tang, but I think there's still enough difference there that we'll get a good crowd.
And I think I will still go hip-hop here with my next pick. I kind of had, like, the plan of taking 2 hip-hop artists because, I mean, I don't know, that seems right, considering the 90s. And like we said, I mean, so many great hip-hop artists from the 90s. I feel like I could have made a list of only hip-hop artists, and it would have been passable at least.
I totally agree. I have so many that we're going to talk about after the break I didn't get to take.
I'm going to take Dr. Dre, and I'll have to lend you Dr. Dre for California Love, so we'll have to talk about
please.
that if I maybe get a cut of your intake for your music festival.
We'll make it work for both of us.
But Dr. Dre is definitely bringing some guests on stage. He's bringing Snoop Dogg. He's bringing Eminem to bring out some of those classics. Might even bring the NWA guys up there, get Ice Cube up there, do some of the old NWA hits from the 80s. So thrilled to get Dr. Dre in the 5th round. One of the greatest hip-hop artists of all time.
Yep, for sure. And you get if we're holding true, and this is why you asked me, I think, about California Love. If we're holding true to the guest track formula that we've got here, you have a whole plethora of people you get to bring up.
Oh my God,
now that you have
so
Dr.
many,
Dre.
so many.
Yeah. So you're kind of doing a nice little grab bag for all the people that may be lower down on your board. Yeah,
exactly.
I like it.
All right, Tim, you have your final 2 picks. How are you going to wrap up your lineup? Yeah.
Oh shit! Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Sorry,
okay.
man. Hey, but don't worry. In the second half, we'll talk about people you wanted to take and couldn't.
That's all right. This will It's okay. Man, there's gonna be so many people that don't get drafted. That's
Yeah.
crazy. Okay. Anyway, all right. First and foremost for me, another band from the '90s that I think is extremely '90s, has stuck around kind of a weirdly long time, to be honest. But when you think of these guys, I think you can't help but think of the 1990s, and that is Weezer.
Oh yes, yeah.
They were definitely on my list.
Yeah, they were on mine too.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy to think that they're still a band and they're still putting stuff out. But
What's your favorite
me,
Weezer song, Tim? Do you have one?
That's a great question. I mean, pretty much anything off of the Blue album you can't beat. Pinkerton, of course, is the sentimental favorite, or the indie darling favorite.
If I can interject,
really
mine would be their recent cover of Africa by Toto. That would probably be my favorite Weezer song.
That's a great one. You know which one I love? I don't know that it's fashionable to say that it's your favorite Weezer song, but it's probably the one that I listen to the most is Hash Pipe. I love Hash Pipe.
Mm-hmm. I really like Island in the Sun, which probably isn't
or Half Pipe.
It isn't the the music nerd's choice either, but
not going to be the deep cut, no. But yeah, it's probably my favorite too.
Yeah.
Man, I have so many others that I want to take, but this is a band that at least will give me some degree of hip hop influence, because I'm obviously lacking in that part. We only get so many picks, people.
Yeah.
But anyway, I am going to choose Rage Against the Machine for my last pick.
Yeah, me too.
So a very that's the kind of band that really could only exist in the 1990s, I think, or only really come of age in the 1990s. But just topical, yeah, I don't know. I would be interested to talk about how well Rage Against the Machine has aged. But
I still listen
to
them.
In its time and place, I think it was extremely important.
And I mean, a great band to go see live, I would imagine.
Right. So I'm kind of surprised that they
show.
lasted as long as they did. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. They just are, like you said, a little niche, maybe why they weren't taken already, but definitely an obvious value there. And like you said, there's just so many bands, like there are going to be great artists that fell to the 6th round, as there have been. So much great music came from the 90s. I think, man, same problem as Tim. There's just so many directions I could go. This one may be a little weird, but I feel like I don't, the one thing I kind of don't have is just a classic 90s sounding pop group. So I'm going to go with Hootie and the Blowfish. Ooh. That might be a little weird, but I really like Hootie. I mean, they've got some great songs, especially like summertime jams. It's kind of, I want the chill stage. I'm going to go have some beers in the middle of the summer day and listen to Hootie and the Blowfish, and it's just going to be a great time. A good cool down between Nirvana and Dr. Dre, I think. So I'm going to take Hootie as my super iconic 90s sounding 90s pop rock band.
They're very much like a band you put on during the cookout kind of thing.
Exactly.
For sure. They've got a very Buffett vibe to them. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
All right, Preston, wrap us up. Last pick.
So this is the last pick of the whole draft. So I think I can just tell everybody who I'm trying to decide between.
Yeah, we can help you out here.
Time after the break. Oh, if you want to. I mean, you could just play Saboteur here.
I would never.
So I'm having a hard time deciding. I want a alt-rocky type. So I'm looking at Counting Crows, and I'm looking at Foo Fighters.
Oh,
and those seem very different
obvious
to
choice for me between those two.
Those seem very different to me. So I'm just going to defer to my own personal taste, and I'm going to pick Foo Fighters.
Okay, that's the right choice. That's definitely the right call.
Okay, good. I think Counting Crows has some good stuff, but it's hard for me to argue with my own taste in music here.
And listen, I love Counting Crows. However, I
mean, come on, it's no contest between the two.
And truthfully, I mean, you talk about bands that I should have taken Foo Fighters. I could have taken them in the first round.
Yeah.
Really?
It's really, really strong value in the last round, I think. I'd kind of forgotten about that.
Okay, I feel better about that now.
We're going to have to make sure that we space Nirvana and Foo Fighters out, so there's not a conflict for Dave Grohl between
Right.
my music festival and yours.
And I was trying to do some quick Googling while y'all were talking to compare the two to see if I could get my get some help out from the internet. And Dave Grohl's net worth is like 20 times higher than the lead singer of Counting Crows, so like that certainly helped my decision.
Good
too. I was like,
indicator.
okay, well,
Good indicator.
but one has clearly been a little more successful.
Yeah.
I mean,
Also-
Counting Crows, lead singer's net worth is still like $40 million, so still, but come on.
He's not hurting. Yeah. But okay, that's the last pick of the music festival lineup draft. Preston has Blink 182, Wu-Tang Clan, Shania Twain, Backstreet Boys, Tupac, and Foo Fighters. I have Nirvana, Outkast, No Doubt, Mariah Carey, Dr. Dre, and Hootie and the Blowfish. And Tim has Pearl Jam, Smashing Pumpkins, Radiohead, Green Day, Weezer, and Rage Against the Machine. We will take a quick breather and be right back to break all that down in just a second. Okay, we are back, and I want to ask you guys, we kind of touched on this a lot during the draft, I felt. Who were some artists that you wanted to take, but you just kind of ran out of room? I mean, there were so many great artists from the 90s, as we mentioned. Who were you most pained to not be able to take? We'll start with Preston.
Oof. Well, so if I was going purely based off of quality, and obviously I think we're factoring in like draw, like crowd draw, and I still think this person would hold their own in that category, but I really wanted to take Lauryn Hill because I think just like culturally, Miseducation of Lauryn Hill might be the best album of that decade, potentially. So like I was trying to find a way to work that in. And really, when I made the Tupac pick, I was going back and forth between the two. But I thought Tupac would just have a much better crowd draw and would be more recognizable to people coming from outside the genre. But if I had to fill in another like two spots, I think I would be throwing her in there.
Yeah, fair. You also could have just gone Fugees, right? Where I think they were mostly in the 90s.
Yeah.
But and gotten her, and gotten the whole package as well. Tim, what about you?
So Lauryn Hill's a good choice. For me, it's a lot of, if there's, one place where mine is lacking, I think it's in hip hop, R&B, rap. So the Notorious B.I.G. Is one that I would have loved to have taken. Jay-Z, I think, would qualify for the 90s, and I would have loved to have taken him as well. In fact, I'm kind of surprised that nobody took either of those two.
Yeah, I had my hip hop bases covered. Biggie was definitely very high on my list, though.
And when you're picking between like producers that get a lot of good feature credits between like Jay-Z and Dr. Dre, I think the choice is like pretty simple. So if like Dr. Dre gets taken, you're kind of looking in other directions, I would think.
Biggie does have the Back from the Dead appeal though that Dr. Dre doesn't bring.
The one that came up that at the end there that is one that with some more rounds I would have liked to have had was Counting Crows, because as much as I still believe that Foo Fighters over Counting Crows is the right pick. That's not necessarily a knock on Counting Crows, who I do think are great and definitely sound very much like the 1990s.
For sure.
So very representative of that era. I'll say in my limited defense, when I came into this, I'm thinking you said the best like 90s bands, and so I'm thinking very much like bands and not necessarily like singers or artists. So I kind of had to recalibrate my perspective on what I was taking and what we were taking. Kind of midway through it.
Tim, I have to say I was surprised you didn't take any ska bands. I know you're a big ska guy, having been in a ska band.
Well, I assume you were going to ask me about my or least favorite pick or whatever. No Doubt was definitely on my list to take, and they just didn't happen because you took them before I could. They would have punched that ticket for me, and honestly, man, like I don't know, the end of the draft really snuck up on me. I thought it was for some reason. I mean, I can do math, I can see the way it works out, but when you told me that it was my last two picks, I was really stunned by that, and so I was like, oh gosh, so now what do I do? Because I'd had those two picks decided that I was going to take Weezer and Rage Against the Machine, and you're right, to not take some of those, some of my favorite bands of all time who, were from the 90s. I didn't take the Mighty Mighty Bosstones. I didn't take Real Big Fish, Less Than Jake. All those bands were really big in the 1990s, and some of them are still going today.
Yeah.
Are bands that me personally, I listen to all the time. So yeah, I'm kind of surprised as well, but it just sort of didn't work out that way.
Yeah, that's the nature of the draft, man. Nature of the show.
I'm going to quickly rattle through the rest of my tier list just because I've got it pulled up here. We don't have to give comment on everybody. So I was thinking Alanis Morissette, Britney Spears, Eminem, NSYNC, Lauryn Hill, Tribe Called Quest, and Counting Crows. Those are in no particular order. I kind of randomized it there. But
Eminem for sure was on mine.
Yeah.
Another one that we should mention that I had lined up as one I was going to take because I kind of wanted the country appeal was Garth Brooks, who, I mean, and I didn't even know this at the time, but Tim mentioned in the halftime break that apparently he's the greatest selling artist of all time, which is insanity. I mean, that's unbelievable. So if I'd known that, I think I definitely would have taken him. I do not like country music really much at all. I like the old stuff. But like the 90s, the 2000s era of country, are really not a big fan for the most part, with very few exceptions. So it's kind of just a personal taste thing for me. But if I could do it again, I think I might take, the country appeal in there somewhere.
So if you don't consider Garth Brooks part of, quote, the old stuff, what do you consider part of the old stuff? I don't mean to put you on the spot here.
Like Johnny Cash, Merle Haggard, Hank Williams Sr.
Okay. So you're jumping pretty far. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to know.
Yeah.
No, I think that's fair. Like, to me, like we talked about, like line in the sand kind of artists, or like the line of demarcation. Like Garth Brooks is definitely that.
Yeah.
I think he really, while I don't equate him with some of the country music of today that I find kind of unenjoyable, I think that he is very much a descendant of that kind of country pop bro kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I intentionally had both him and Shania Twain together, knowing I wanted to take only one of them. And I picked Shania Twain, which is going to piss a lot of country fans off. Mainly because I feel like she has more crossover appeal to people that don't even know who Shania Twain is, but they've heard those like 5 songs before.
Definitely, yeah.
And they will hear it from across the field at the festival and be like, oh, it's that person. Okay, I'll run over there now. Garth Brooks definitely has some of those, but he's more of like a consistency across the board.
Yeah, he doesn't have as much pop crossover.
For sure.
Well, I mean, there were a lot of good picks, obviously. There were a lot of bands that we didn't get to take. But this is always my favorite question, I think. What was the pick? And there isn't an obvious answer this week, I don't think. But what was the pick that was the worst? The one that made you kind of raise your eyebrow and think, I don't know if I would have taken them there.
So I don't think there is an obvious pick like there is in other drafts. Mm-hmm. And I'm gonna pick this one, and mainly I'm putting a lot of blame on myself here because I'm not well versed in the genre or the decade. But Smashing Pumpkins in the second round seemed strange to me, and I noted it at the time. But it seemed like Daniel and I, with our second round picks, both had the idea of like, all right, we've got a genre covered in the first round. Let's go a different direction. I don't know. It struck me a little weird, but I will allow Tim a chance to defend himself.
Yeah, man, Smashing Pumpkins are awesome. So
good defense.
Simple as that.
My bad. That's on me. That's on me.
And I also, I wasn't as concerned with, I wasn't looking at it like a grab a quarterback, running back, receiver type thing. Like I was okay overlapping genres. I was okay, doubling up on that if they were that strong.
Sure.
To me, you could have taken Smashing. As far as bands of the '90s who were like the '90s, I think Smashing Pumpkins could have been a first rounder. But that's just me,
will say, the people that like that genre of music, if they choose your festival, they're just
they're gonna be psyched out of their minds.
Yeah, I mean, there's like
Tim
every single band. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That one group that's gonna go, it's gonna be a you had to be there kind of moment.
Hey man, know your audience.
I don't think you know our audience.
We'll see. We'll have to find out over on the Twitter poll. But Tim, what was the worst pick in your opinion?
Man, I feel bad saying it, but Shania Twain.
Oh, wow.
No, I don't know, man. I don't know about Shania Twain.
Do you think she just could have dropped further, or do you just wouldn't have taken her at all?
I don't think I think I would have. There's other, even other country artists from the 90s that I would have taken ahead of her.
Maybe a little more seminal to the music landscape of the 90s, you're saying?
Yeah, and Blink-182 first overall to me wasn't great, but I'm going to give that one a pass because, as Daniel pointed out, if you were to swap Foo Fighters and Blink-182, I think it's just fine. So
I ended up being okay, I guess.
I have no problem with Blink-182 being on the list. I think first overall it maybe is a little lofty for them.
Tim, I'm just going to tell you, next time you go to a party, I want you to put on Man, I Feel Like a Woman. And I want you to find any person in the room who isn't bopping just a little bit. Like, there is literally nobody on this planet who wouldn't move around to that song.
That's fair.
The next time you get to go to a party in 2022.
I was going to say, joke's on you, because I'm never going to a party ever again.
Yeah, that's true.
On my next Zoom call, I'll do it.
I am so excited for these music festivals to be like the opening bash of being able to go back and doing things. And
it's true. Like the parties after this is over and like really, really over, not easing back into it over, but really over.
Fully over.
My God.
Yeah. And we'll all still be wearing masks because we're just so scarred, from it all.
Yeah, we don't know how to not do it anymore.
Well, you didn't answer the question.
No, yeah, I was just about to. We were getting all depressed talking about COVID instead. But you actually took mine anyway. I think Blink-182 as the top pick. Like I said, or like we both said, I think it was kind of saved by taking the Foo Fighters because Foo Fighters clearly was more value than deserved to be taken higher than the 6th round, I should say. And Blink, I think if you swapped those two picks, it wouldn't have felt as weird. But yeah, Blink-182 going first definitely was a little jarring to me at the time.
It's just weird. Like, I disagree with that. And I think my personal taste probably bled over a bit too much. But I looked at my entire list of artists and bands I had and just thought, like, who am I going to be really upset if somebody else takes them and I didn't get them? And that's how I decided who I picked first. And that's what I went with. So I don't know. I think we'll see the voting vindicate me a little bit.
Well, I mean, we'll have to wait and see.
That's more confident than I usually am at this point.
Wow. Okay. Well, Preston was clearly playing it up to people he knows personally. But I think it's, in my opinion, it's like inarguable that a lot of bands and artists that were picked are like more universally beloved and iconic than Blink-182. But anyway, that leads me to my next and final question. And this kind of leads itself, I think this draft leads itself to all of us picking our own lineups here. So if that's the case, pick, who your second option. But which of these lineups was your favorite? Which one would you be most psyched to go to that music festival? Tim, why don't you start?
Well, mine. But
yeah.
After that, Daniel's looks really good to me as well.
I appreciate that.
Love Nirvana, love Outkast. No Doubt is one that I definitely came into this thing thinking was going to be one of mine. 7th grade me loved Mariah Carey, loved the talent. Dr. Dre, of course, and then Hootie and the Blowfish. They got enough to satisfy the audience. So yeah, I think that would be a
what a murderer's row Tim just read of my my lineup there, which I think makes it obvious that I'm picking mine as well. I just like that I hit different realms. I'm really not I'm not even a big concert guy, let alone a music festival guy. But I feel like